precisely identifying the role of the facilities managers as the custodians of design objectives.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that a lot of effort is put in during workplace strategy and the brief, and then it goes to the designers, and the architects deliver, and then the facility managers are given the building and manuals of maintenance and all that, but where is the design strategy objectives that they need to be the custodians and to ensure that there is a progression?
Welcome to you, Agustin.
Gus.
Gus?
Is here, I think.
Yep, Dr. Gus Chevez. We're excited to have you in the room. I think you're going to offer our listeners a very different perspective on, I think, some of the why questions around the office space and the workspace and the facilities that they manage on a day-to-day. So thank you for coming in.
No, thanks for the invitation. We're happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about you. You're an architect.
Yes, so I'm an architect, and we were having this conversation just before, I haven't practiced architecture in the way that we might understand it for many years.
In the person sitting, drawing up plans, logging in. And
I still believe I'm just move upstream of what we tend to think architecture is, just in the briefing side of it. Why do we need the spaces that we need? In my area, why do we need the office? What is the office? What's the workplace? And so on. So,
yeah, absolutely. You sit more at the consultancy stage rather than...
Yeah, so I'm still connected with the universities, and I have fellowships with the University of Melbourne, but I have my own consultancy now after having worked with some of the leading design studios here in Australia.
Yeah, fantastic. I think a lot of the stuff that I've seen that you've produced, so you've written some books and some articles and also done a TED Talk, you're very good at taking complex thoughts and complex scenarios and creating a metaphor that's really easy for someone to pick up and understand. Yeah,
that's something I have really put a lot of attention, because coming from academia, I think sometimes academics try to hide behind big words and terms because if they use plain English, it will be so simple that I did my PhD, it took me around 5 years or so, and I can summarize it in plain English in 5 sentences or so. That kind of, really?
But there was a whole thesis.
This? Language and the way we use analogies and can help us understand very complex. Reducing the complexity in ways that are more engaging and easy to understand.
Yeah. Now, you're probably excited that we've got an architect in the room.
A little bit.
And one that's probably not going to be offended at your questions because he's not practicing the architecture we think.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm in facilities, 3-4 days a week. And a lot of the facility managers that I talk to, I walk in and they take me, Sam, I've got a problem. I've got this flooring type in my kitchen. It's bollen. It's very hard to clean. I don't know why the architects have been putting this in. And I go, I don't know either. Something I would love to know, and I assume a lot of facility managers probably want to know as well, is how can they get into the room of when things are starting to be designed and thought about, and how can they put in their 2 cents to go, I know this looks great right now, but what's it going to look like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and what's it going to be like when we're trying to clean it and maintain it as well? How have you seen facility managers be able to put in their 2 cents and be able to kind of help in that kind of design and thought building stage of what the facility is going to look like and how it's going to be able to be managed once the facility manager takes over as the custodian?
Yes, you raised so many great questions there.
That was a lot. I'm going to throw them all at you right now.
So I think there are a lot of shorthand assumptions that we make about professions. So again, we pigeonhole an architect is this, facility manager is that. And that is good and bad in the way that can help us understand, this is the domain and so on, but also we come with assumptions.
Yeah.
When I was working for a design studio and I was approaching facility managers, the biggest problem that we have is the type of conversation they assume we're going to have. Yeah. Perhaps too quickly on square meters or materiality or maintenance, like the type of issues that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then talk about strategic briefing and trying to bring facilities earlier into the briefing side of it, and the strategic thinking that it kind of it's missing a little bit. So I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but one of the common comments or feedback that I had is we were not expecting to have this conversation. When I was having this type of, because the good thing about working in big design studios is that everybody will pick up the phone, but sometimes, and this is not to offend anyone, but someone, they will pick up not the right person you want to talk to, or because where they pigeonhole in the day-to-day. So sometimes facility managers, I don't blame them. They are on their day-to-day pressures, and that some of the strategic thinking that we try to do earlier on, even before the architects, like more workplace strategy and so on, they don't have time. Not because they don't care about it. It's just because they have different environment and context to operate.
But it would probably give them more time back in their day in 3 years' time when they inherit that space that's being redesigned, if they were to carve out some time at this point.
Absolutely.
To be part of the conversation.
They hand over, and not only hand over, because it's not that they should not be part of the process until certain spot and then give the brief. No, they should be brought very early in those conversations, and those conversations that were not expected to have, like they're natural, you know? So back in 2010, I had the opportunity to co-write a paper precisely identifying the role of the facilities managers as the custodians of design objectives. Because what happens is that a lot of effort is put in during workplace strategy and the brief, and then it goes to the designers and the architects deliver, and then the facility managers are given the building and manuals of maintenance and all that, but where is the design strategy objectives that they need to be the custodians and to ensure that there is a progression? So that's all lost, and then it's just an operational of the facility, and look at maintenance, HVAC, the air conditioning, lighting, and so on.
I think having there's more than just the facility manager as part of that conversation as well, right? Because the designers can come in and design a beautiful space that fits the brief and matches the look that and the feel and all the purpose that the brief described. And they'll hand it over to the custodians who are the facility managers. But then the business in the briefing stage almost needs to have some of their more senior C-suite individuals understand, okay, well, what's the cost going to be associated with maintaining some of these things? Because a lot of the time the facility managers inherit this space, but then don't have a budget to look after it the right way, to make sure that it lasts and has lifelong, the assets have a life that's spanning it, something that's worth the money they've spent on it.
So a couple of things there. First is, I think, to meet the opportunities and challenges of the future of work, not the workplace, but where work is going, and therefore where the workplaces need to meet it. A couple of things need to change. One of them is the distribution of CapEx and OpEx. So the design and the build of the asset is considered as a CapEx. You know, capital expenditure, here it is. And what we're seeing is that a lot of the maintenance, but not so much of the maintenance of the building in terms of its materials and services, but on the maintenance of the objectives, the design objectives need to occur during OpEx. So you need to refresh the environment as well, not because the carpet looks tired, but because the environment's not working. So when I was working at Hassel, we did develop a framework called RAW, Responsive Agile Workplace. And the idea behind that was, let's say you buy a car now. You buy it, and then you know that that car has been tested over thousands of kilometers and this and that, and been mass produced, and you still take it to the dealership every so often for a maintenance. With buildings, with workplaces, we design it based on assumptions, educated guesses of to meet the brief, and then there it is. Here's the keys. Good luck. We never take it back for service if you wish.
Yeah.
If we're
Yeah.
lucky, we do post-occupancy evaluations, but sometimes they're not even worth the paper they're printed because they tend to be more like marketing material.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
pictures. You can see the pictures are taken before the employees move in and they ruin and make things ugly, or they get the most beautiful designers in the office to walk around and take the pictures.
A few models.
And that's it. That's why they show.
Yeah.
Design becomes beautiful not because of how it looks, but how it works.
Yeah.
How it meets its objectives and its challenges.
Yeah.
And then the other one, which you mentioned, so one, move from CapEx to OpEx. So that makes a longitudinal effort of the maintenance of the objectives, not the space itself. And the other one is cost. If we keep talking about costs, it's a race to the bottom.
Yes.
What you want to do with cost is minimize it. The proposition that we need to do is talk about value. It's completely different conversations. If you talk about cost, is how little, how can I minimize it? If you talk about value, is how much you maximize it.
Yeah.
So that's when we cannot have the same conversations if you're talking about cost and I'm talking about value.
Yeah. Wow.
So one of the other models that I was working on was called Business Cube. It was a little bit of a play on words of square meter, because one of the biggest problems of our industry, I believe, is that we sell area. We sell square meters.
Yes.
Now imagine the proposition that is instead of selling square meters, we sell the value that environment, not only the space, but the whole environment brings to the organization to meet its objectives. It's a completely different proposition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. The idea of value-based pricing is a huge shift in a lot of sales orgs.
Yeah.
Where they're shifting away from unit-based to value or user-based and moving to value-based because it's more about trying to meet objectives then rather and getting the desired outcomes rather than just ticking boxes, basically.
If it's not, then it's just ticking boxes, and there's not responsibility or there's no care if what happens to that asset if it works or not.
Yeah. It's just another building, another facility.
Exactly right.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the idea of running things to their end of life, like just letting things go to waste, basically, not letting things just end and not maintaining them in between, getting them now and the end product.
And again, depends what you mean by maintaining them. Are we talking about whether you need to change the light bulb or maintenance, as I see it as an architect, is and as a workplace strategist, is more about the quality of the environment in supporting the objectives.
Yes.
And that has to be maintained continuously. That's why you need to move into OpEx, and that's the analogy of the car. So don't run the car until
until the engine explodes.
It explodes. The problem is that even with cars, they have a light that turns off based on things that are not working with the engine.
Yes, check engine.
Yeah.
Buildings, they have similar type of things for all the different systems, but that's not something that tells you you're departing from your strategy, from the design strategy, not energy efficiency strategy. All of that things are very well covered.
Yeah.
It's about the purpose of the building. That we need to take a couple of steps back and think, why do we have buildings?
Yeah.
Buildings in my area of work, which is workplace, is to host an organization, allow them to meet their organizational objectives.
Yeah.
That's why they're there. That our economy, superannuation funds, and all that now depends on that, and they have become an economy of themselves, is different from why we had buildings in the first place.
Yeah.
So we need to, for me, the biggest maintenance issue would be to ensure that the organization is still meeting the business objectives as intended in the design brief.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of there's been a lot of shift, especially since COVID, in the way workplaces and office spaces are being used. A lot of them are sitting empty most of the week, and they've got these leases that have a few more years left on them. Has that shift sort of shifted some of those objectives, do you think? Like has it changed the why at all?
No, if anything, it had brought it more to the surface because the why was still there. And all of the research and frameworks that I'm been working on, they have become more relevant now because of COVID. But we were having those conversations before. Before the pandemic, I think it was 2016, 17 or so, around the TED Talk 2016.
Yes.
One of the things that I was talking about is the office is an invention. I was trying to remind people that if you plot the history of work,
yep.
The office has hosted work for a very, very short time.
Yeah.
And that means that at one point in time it was invented. It's not like a chemistry experiment that when you put a couple of things together, boom, it's very complex to pinpoint the date and the time that the office, but you can trace it. There were a time that there were no office typology and now it's.
Yes.
So if it was an invention, we need to look at the context that gave us the office. And if you look at it, we're not going to go through it, but there's some publications that have written that you can have a look at it. You will see how that context is so different now.
Yeah.
You will not invent the office if it didn't exist with the context that we have now. You invent different typologies, different environments. One of the models that I'm working now, it's called the full spectrum workplace. So it's about hosting work in a variety of environments based on time and space. So you move work, not whether it's in the office or at home. Hybrid is office-centric type of, still believes that work belongs in the office. No, work belongs in the workplace.
Yeah.
That for recent time, workplace has become a synonym of office.
Yeah.
It's just a recent period. But moving forward, we need to understand that work happens at the workplace, and that workplace can be
anywhere.
Anywhere. And one thing that I don't like is the anywhere, anytime, because when you look at it, it's more about somewhere, sometime. Because the qualities of the space and time matter.
Yeah.
So it's not that we can work anywhere, anytime, even those that what we love to believe. We actually work somewhere, sometime, and we try to, again, match the qualities of those space and time with the objectives that we want to serve.
Okay.
A lot of facilities are starting to mandate return to work policies because I don't think they, for one reason or another, they think that the office is the workplace, right? That there's this place, this time is the way it should be. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wrote when we were in the thick of it. I wrote an open letter to managers, and I actually bypass designers and facility managers. So I went a little bit out of my discipline, if you wish, and I wrote an open letter to managers. Don't go back to the office, and which might have been a perhaps counterintuitive of someone that it's an architect.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're cutting yourself out of a job there.
And actually, we lost a job. But putting that aside, that's again because we need to differentiate the method with the product or design. Workplace design should not be tethered to the office. Workplace design should be should produce work environments.
Okay.
And what I was trying to do in that open letter is to reach the executives of business owners and managers to rethink about that idea why we go to the office, and that businesses and organizations could be better served nowadays in working in an ecology of environments. And one of the big things or the drivers to go back to the office was innovation, because we need to go back to the office to innovate and exchange ideas. Well, not quite. There's research done by researchers from Harvard University in which they identified, did a series of experiments, and they found that innovation happens with intermittent isolation. So what that means, they did a fantastic experiment. So people try working together all the time, a specific problem. People working in and out, so you will interact with each other, but then take a break and so on. And then people in complete isolation. So,
Yes.
And the group that performed the best was not the one that was working all the time together, not the one that were completely isolated, but the ones
Intermittent.
intermittent. So there's a value in actually having parts of your organization separated. So we should not think that when people are outside the open plan office, they're not working, or it's in detriment of innovation. No, it's part of a richer solution.
I really like that. What do you think then the role of a facility manager is in this evolving landscape? As we've come from 9 to 5 office before COVID, was pretty much, that was just the done deal. And it's shifted to this now hybrid context where people are working from home or cafes and only in the office sometimes. That the role of the 9 to 5 facility manager shifts in that they're now managing empty spaces a lot at times. What do you think that role in the future looks like for them as we continue to evolve that space?
Yeah, I think we'll become more strategic and perhaps bring them earlier into the conversations of the design of the facility. And I understand the complexities of that. But that will be the way that the profession evolves to be more strategic than operational, which nowadays is more about, troubleshooting, maintenance, but not of the right type of aspects of the building in its function. So I believe the closer the two disciplines like design and facilities work together with executive, it's better.
You sort of touch on that idea of they bring something to the conversation because they see things from their side. You talk about that Rubik's Cube and how each player sort of is solving their own side of the cube.
So one of my latest research was called the Where of Work. And what I was trying to understand there is how do we end up with the environments that we end up for work? What do we end up with the office, given that it's the most predominant?
Yes.
So then I try to conceptualize work, not the office, but work as a Rubik's Cube. One that we're always in the process of trying to solve it, but we quite never get there. Yeah. But every now and then we get a good shuffle. Like the pandemic really gave our cube of work a good shuffle.
It messed it up.
But it was in the putting it back together that we learned so much. Because then you can see how each of the stakeholders involved in the world of work tries to solve their own phase. So employees, sorry, I think I have something. Employees try to solve their phase, so in terms of flexibility, working from home, so on. Yeah. Organizations try to minimize the square meters and increase efficiencies and all that. Developers try to continue selling the office by the square meter and so on. And everybody's trying to solve their own phase, but no one's solving the whole cube. Yeah. So in this research, I tried to first understand the dynamics of the cube, and then how can you create one? And one of the lessons was you cannot solve the Rubik's Cube phase by phase. And in the process of doing that, you have to mess up someone else's progress. Yeah. So it's that in that context of uncertainty, because if you have already sorted out your phase from your point of view, but I said, well, hold on, you might, but what about me? I need to disrupt you. Otherwise, if I don't disrupt you, the whole cube will not work. So it's about being able or willing to disrupt your industry, the way you look at the world, for a greater benefit of having a better solution. Because yes, we cannot solve this problem if the disciplines, the way we procure and work environments are not disrupted. If facility managers, if designers, if engineers, if developers, valuers, everybody that is in this world of work, they're not willing to or sacrifice, but to be comfortable with the uncertainty of having a messed up face that you have already created for the benefit of
and it sort of links back to what your question at the start was around the facility manager inherits this space and they have their own view of how that space should operate, what that space's design was purposed for, and they didn't see the original brief. They weren't part of that. So they've got their own view and they allow it to get disrupted when something is outside the budget to maintain or to clean or to fix. And so their face that they thought was perfect is now disrupted a little bit. But if they could just take a step back or look at the other sides of the cube, they'd be able to see, okay, well, this was the intention that the brief was formed around, okay, this is the purpose of our office space.
Yeah.
This is the holistic.
Exactly right. They see that change in the Rubik's Cube not as a way towards a better solution, but as a disruption to their solution that they have.
Yeah.
So if you change your mind, your way of looking at disruption, rather than, oh, this is an inconvenience, and see that this is a way of the process of having something better, that's the way to solving it.
And that is the way you solve a Rubik's Cube. You do it face by face, but once you've got the face, the next time you do it in the next face, you have to...
I actually had to learn to do it because I did the layer by layer, which is the simplest method.
That's the only way I know how to do it.
Yes.
I learned it in COVID.
Layer by layer, and yes, you start with one, and then you go back... the other lines and like that, and then at the end, and there was one point,
left up, one round, left back down.
And I remember I was solving it, learning all that by just practicing it, and then there was a guy that was looking at me, just caught me on the kind of the last few moves that it looks very messy, and I just did the last couple of moves, the last algorithm, and in a couple of seconds was done. But the guy just saw me in that instance. I thought it was like a Rubik's Cube virtuoso or something like that. But the lesson there was that just before it was solved, it was a mess.
Yes. Yeah.
Worse than initially.
Yeah.
And that's the big lesson for the whole industry. And it applies across the board of not only facilitators, managers, not only designers, but valuers, superannuations, cities, transport, everybody that is involved in the world of work.
I love it. I love the view of the opportunity of the disruption rather than the inconvenience of the disruption. I love that concept.
You mentioned something earlier about the work environment compared to, say, like an office space. How do you, I guess, when you're thinking about the work environment, make it as cohesive for when the office staff are going to be in there and actually using it? At what point is that the main objective, or is it always from day one when you get the brief of the office space? What's this work environment goal and what's this space's goal?
I think I go back to the original proposition that the workplace exists to allow the organizations to meet their objectives.
Yeah.
The problem is that because now there's so many stakeholders there, they see that differently. So there's a new metric that I hope it doesn't catch up, but I think it will because it interests some. But it's like cost per visit. So now, because you have the technology to see how many people are in the facility, now they're just dividing the cost of that day by the number of people. And of course, then the more people you have, the less that cost. And there are people that are actually trying to reduce that cost and as a measurement of success. And that is so wrong in my point of view for so many reasons. First, because it's about cost, right? It's not about the value. You might have just people there, and I can just, I was doing research, and again, this was actually after the pandemic, but it was in the US, and I was looking at some organizations, one of those blue chip organizations, bringing people back and to the office with bribery. But bribery by design. Had the opportunity to write a paper with another researcher on, we call it bribery by design, in the sense that how to entice people.
Yeah.
And they were offering food for free. So they had this was a large organization, the likes of the ones that you imagine.
Yes.
They have like food courts with all the different choices of food for free.
Yeah.
And even to make it more appealing, they allowed people, the family, to come in. So it was interesting being there at the food court and seeing people from all generations. The employee, and their parents and their children.
The kids in there as well. Yeah.
So it was buzzing during the lunch time.
Yeah.
But after that, the parents and the kids go, and some of the employees as well.
Yep.
And then you're left with few people there. So why do we want people just in a space to think that it's successful? What we want is that helping the organization.
I went through one of those large organizations just recently up in Sydney, and as soon as we walked into the food court area, which they'd just opened up, I was like, wow, this, to me, that sounds like a great concept. I'd love to just...
If I got free lunch every day.
Not have to go out and buy lunch or bring my lunch from home and got to heat it up. I just love to be that ease. But the facility manager that was walking me through talked about how much of a headache it was for them in opening this new space, because their Rubik's Cube got disrupted a little bit. It was a massive change, and it did mean that family members had access to the building, and there was just a shift in the way the facility now operated. But it was all to entice people to come back in. And I think not necessarily with that goal of the cost per visit thing, but more so if my staff aren't going out and leaving at lunchtime and they've got breakfast, lunch and dinner provided. If my staff are in the office for that time, they may sit around the table while they're eating, talking about the project they're working on. So I'm getting more out of my staff by providing this for them, which is still bribery. It's still a bribery, but you're getting more out of people is their thought.
I think that way of optimization of seeing humans, or the optimization of humans just as we optimize machines, that a downtime in a machine is bad because they're designed to, if you have an airplane landed, you're losing money. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the management thinks if you have an employee
downtime in humans,
you're losing money. It's not quite the same. I mean, again, going back to that research of intermittent isolation, we're not machines. We have different processes. And one of my passions is to understand when do we need to be together and when do we need to be apart. Mm-hmm. And what is the role of interactions, not collaboration, because also a problem that I see is using this wide umbrella term of collaboration to describe all the ways in which we interact. So we cooperate, coordinate, delegate, negotiate. We are engaged in many different types of interactions that requires different hierarchy and trust models, but we're designing them in the same way, collaboration, you know? And so this one was, again, back in the day, but this was actually before the pandemic. I was working for a large design firm, and we had a project in Sydney. And I was going back and forth from Melbourne to Sydney. And I have watched all the movies and the plane and all that. And on the way back, one of those days, I was reading a book on Darwin and the iguanas in the Galapagos Island, you know, as you do as an architect. Yeah. And what caught my attention is that as I was reading that, they were talking about the iguanas in the Galapagos Islands and how they evolved very differently. I don't know if you know.
No.
So there are these islands, the Galapagos, and there's some iguanas that live there. And Darwin used them to study evolution. So he saw that the iguanas in one island evolved very different from the iguanas in the other island, and so on. Yeah. So as I was reading the book, I came to a chapter that really changed my career. And it's not from a book from design or anything, but from biology.
Yeah.
And it says that it was isolation that gave us all the diversity of species that we have today. Because it was through isolation that those iguanas in this island evolved very different from these ones.
Yeah.
If they were connected, there will not be diversity.
Yeah.
So still in that plane, I was reading that and I thought, well, what type of society will we have if we conceive ideas in isolation? Because the connectivity, then I start thinking, let's think about Melbourne and Sydney, right? We have the equivalent of a very prolific colony of iguanas, not replace iguanas with ideas, right?
Yes.
We have a very prolific colony of ideas, but based on the same strand. There are a lot of them, but there's no diversity. So I thought, well, what will happen if Sydney and Melbourne were in different islands? What will those happen to those ideas? Will they evolve differently as iguanas evolve very differently?
Yeah.
And so I was still in the plane, and then I thought, well, what type of society will we have if we didn't send, if you have an idea and you don't send it to Sydney or take a flight or the phone?
Yeah.
So that's when I thought, what will happen if next time I have an idea, instead of sending through emails or whatever, have to walk for the time that takes me to get from Melbourne to Sydney.
Okay.
Incubating an idea.
And you'll be isolated for so long that idea will evolve.
So the way to recreate that isolation was time.
Yes.
So because in today's world of work, you have an idea very quickly to that efficiency.
Pick up the phone,
email, take a flight or whatever.
Yeah.
But I want to see, well, what will happen to that idea if it needs to be isolated, not through millions of years of time, like the iguanas, but for the duration of my walk.
So you walked all the way.
I walked, and I didn't know how long it was going to take me.
I didn't pre-warn you.
Yeah, this is.
But I flicked through your book, The Pilgrim's
Guide to the Workplace,
which is where he's documented this whole walk, basically, of walking from
nuts.
Melbourne
Okay,
to Sydney.
all right.
I wanted you to be surprised because I thought you'd be impressed.
Yeah, this is. I'm zoned in. I'm zoned in.
So yeah, how long do you think will take you to get to Sydney? By the way, there were two routes that I could follow. One is the shortest one, that is go through the mountains and all that.
Yeah.
But that's very isolated in terms of access to food and water. And because I wanted to be self-sufficient, I wanted to carry everything with me.
Okay.
So
you did around the coast?
So I did around the coast,
Okay.
which is a little bit longer.
Much longer.
I know William just ran from Western Australia to Sydney in 33 days.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it took you
But he ran.
21 days to walk.
You have a lot of confidence in me.
I know the answer.
You know the answer. All right, come on.
I think I know the answer. Wait. It was
42.
42. I was
42.
going to say 32, but I
That's still a lot. Because what is it? Like 1,100 kilometers?
Yeah, 1,000 or so.
Yeah.
900 or something. So it took me 42, but I mean, that was the time. And again, it was more about the process and the lessons. And
What happened to the idea over that period of time? Because obviously 42 days where you're thinking about walking and how sore your feet are, but you also got that idea of what's going to happen to this.
So I wanted to incubate this idea. So before I left, I said, okay, what is the idea that I am going to incubate, right?
Yeah.
So I was working on this idea and all this and that. And I started on Federation Square, just here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And a couple of people sent me off, and you know where Federation Square is?
Yes.
Do you know where the National Gallery is? So I started working that. By then I said, what the hell am I doing? Because
5 minutes in and already questioning.
Questioning. So I need to think about an idea, my idea. And I felt this pressure, because I needed to take leave out of work because imagine having a conversation with your boss. I'm going to walk from Melbourne to Sydney and...
I'll see you in a month and a half.
but I'm expecting to still have my salary, So I need to take time without pay, leave without pay.
Yeah.
So I put my life on hold, not only job, but also my partner and all that.
Yeah.
So, and it hit me like from a couple of, less than a kilometer, whatever is from there to the NGV.
Not even a kilometre.
not even a kilometer. I said, am I really walking from Melbourne to Sydney because I read a book about iguanas in the Galapagos Islands and I want to incubate a new idea about work? So, but it was too late. So
You've already said it. You've said it.
I could still see them at the distance. Waiting
Might quickly jump on a Greyhound bus. They'll never know.
So, but I persevere, and but the pressure. The first few days were horrible because that pressure of I better be smart. Like I think about this, and if I was thinking about stupid things, well, that's so stupid. Let's reframe it.
Yeah.
It was not until I let go.
Yeah.
That I actually start truly embracing the experience of pilgrimage, because I frame it more like a pilgrimage rather than a walk.
Yeah.
And so many lessons, and some of them I wasn't expecting them. So one of my rules, I have two rules. One was to do it by myself, completely isolated, and the other one was no distractions. So I did carry my phone, but just for navigation. Yeah. But I didn't listen to music or podcast, nothing. So it was day in, day out, walking for hours on end.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, the first couple of days, I'm going to Sydney walking, but eventually that novelty wore off very quickly,
Yeah.
And I was bored beyond belief. Like, Jesus. And that was day 3. And again, these were lessons that I was not expecting or experiences. And then I realized the importance of boredom. So talking about what makes us human and our role in the future of work, I think there are the qualities that make us uniquely human or distinct from technology, because humans have this unique ability to get bored.
Yeah.
What does boredom mean to AI? Or what? Maybe it's downtime. It's not useful, but boredom is a very useful thinking tool because it allows you to see the world differently than when you are constantly stimulated by your environment.
I asked my AI the other day, it was only about a week ago, I asked it, what would you do if you were human for a day? And it said it would allow itself to get bored.
Oh.
It said it would allow itself to get bored and it would allow itself to feel sadness. But I thought it was interesting that it said it would allow itself to feel bored because it is a very unique...
Yeah, but can you allow yourself to be bored? I think it's a contrived... I don't think you can allow yourself to be... Well, you can create this, but it's not... I'm going to be bored now.
No.
So you need to have that... It comes to you.
Yes.
Yeah, like you can put yourself in a situation, the boredom will eventually happen, but I don't think it's...
eventually happen. I mean, and right now, the pace, we might think that we're bored because we cannot check Instagram in 5 minutes, but not that you're missing the dopamine and another stimulus, but you're actually not bored in the way that is useful.
Yes.
I'm talking about the boredom as a useful thinking tool, because I was very tempted to say, well, what am I doing here? I mean, I might listen to myself, listen to music or something, or no, but you need to go to that process of really pushing through. And in the book, I look into boredom, and there are studies that suggest that there's an experiment that have people left with their own thoughts, nothing, and an electric impulse. So you can either just be like that, or you can actually press a button that gives you an electric shock. And some people will just press the button to get an electric shock just to have that stimulus and
just
not
to feel something.
Because they don't cope with boredom.
Because they don't cope with boredom. So boredom is nothing to be, nothing trivial. I'm not trying to trivialize it. I mean, in isolation and all those things go hand in hand, but it can be, it gives a perspective back to I want my employees to be all the time talking about work and this and that. I think if we let our employees be bored,
they'd become more innovative.
More innovative. Now that the name of the game is innovation, true innovation. And by that I mean, there's the innovation that most organizations look at, which is how can I make things cheaper and faster?
Yes.
So it's just about incremental innovation of I have this, I don't
And I wanna
care
get to
about.
this.
I just want to make it cheaper and faster,
But true innovation is that creation of something that's not existent.
which it requires in absurdity. So I framed my lessons out of the pilgrimage into signposts.
Yes.
Because I believe those signposts point to a better place of work.
Yeah.
And if we follow them, we get there. So there are 34 signposts. The first one is that isolation promotes diversity of ideas, which is based on the idea of the iguanas.
Mm-hmm.
But the second one is about the importance of absurdity. So the need for the workplace to promote absurdity. Because absurdity allows you to entertain two premises that they cannot be simultaneously true. Like a bird made out of metal that flies. That is absurd, but then you have the plane.
You got planes, yeah.
And that creates features that are not allowed by making horse faster,
Yeah.
right? So absurdity is the exploration of features that are not tangible there yet, because they're absurd. Otherwise, they will be here.
Yeah.
But of course, absurdity is only the spark, if you wish, but then you have to coordinate it with reality. So if you think about this, my pilgrimage was 42 days, but I'm still on it. And I'm still trying
How
to
many years later?
How many? Yes.
Yeah.
So years. So one of the first thing when I finished, I think there were some people that knew that I was doing this, And it was funny because there was this kind of expectation, that you come back from walking, what's the idea? And if it was sort of an enlightenment one, the chosen one with the truth.
The glow,
He's
the
gonna have
flow.
all the answers now ready for us. A third
One
eye
person
opens.
per square meter, 10 square meters, that was going to be the answer, But it's like a little bit the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yes.
The answer
Don't panic, don't panic.
Or 42,
Yeah.
I'm very happy that the answer to everything is 42.
42, yeah. And you did it in
I
42
made mine
days.
in 42 days. And I actually felt worried again because I think I didn't feel that I learned anything. So I came back and people asked me, well, what you learn? And I could not articulate what is that I had learned. I kind of have some ideas, but I still need to percolate it. And so I came back to my day job, and straight out of the bat, I realized that the things that we measure, like occupancy, even economy, energy consumption, all that, were important, but they were not what makes the workplace. So I started looking into better things to measure.
Yeah.
And in that process, I came across a scale developed by others that measured dignity. And dignity is a very interesting concept because it is a sense of self-worth, but it's validated by a system. So you might have a sense of how much your self-worth, but the system, whether increase that or you're actually not that great, erodes your dignity and so on.
Yes.
And I thought that's amazing because dignity is incredibly human.
Yeah.
Those technology have dignity. Square meters, do they have dignity? So I thought that's an incredibly human variable to measure.
Yeah.
So together with some other researchers and designers, we developed this idea of designing for dignity.
Yeah.
And how dignity travels through social networks in the workplace and how we can design for that.
Yeah.
And the way to define that, it's like, think about dignity like, I don't know if you have fish tanks, or it's like the pH of your water, right?
Yeah.
So it's if you have that right, everything else falls.
The ecosystem works.
It works. Mm-hmm. So we did it, we wrote it. Even the word is very loaded. It's very emotive. Some people react to it. But I remember doing some presentations, and some of them facility managers, other property developers, so on, and me talking about dignity in the workplace. And they were looking at me like, really? Like if I was talking about something from Mars, like it didn't belong there.
Yeah.
Yes.
They didn't see the connection.
There is a connection, but
Yeah.
for me, that is the connection of the workplace.
Yeah.
Everything else that we measure, whether there's people in it or not, or the energy consumption, or how old is your carpet, or those are there to serve other purposes. If people are not in the office, you have bigger problems to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the facility manager, being someone who manages the day-to-day operations of a facility, that is their concern, right? The dignity of every person who walks in the building, and making sure that that person walks out feeling dignified.
But is it though? I mean,
It should be.
It should be, but it's not, and this is not a criticism for them, because the day-to-day pressures is very different.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
sometimes you see facility managers walking to see if the space is used correctly. What does that even mean? Because they're not thinking about where space is being used correctly as it serves to the business objectives, but as assumptions of whether that meeting room was designed for 6 people and only 2 people are there.
Yeah. Why have you booked that?
Why do you
You're
book
taking
that?
up space.
Well, because I needed all this area or to
Yeah.
put things on. But so they see it in a complete different way that it should be. But it's not a criticism on themselves. It's about the pressure, the assumption of the discipline of what it need to do and happen. And then I also seen efforts of these change management initiatives, like trying to understand people through human-centered design and all these. They're not truly they're not done to bring the environment closer to the person. They're to bring the person
Closer to the environment.
To the environment that they have already made the assumption that they need and will work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So some of the initiatives are human-centered design and people first, and they can be very dangerous in the sense that can just be ticking boxes exercise. And then I ask, okay, you engage a designer and they have their experienced designer and a human center. What if I don't engage you, if I don't pay you those fees for that? Does that mean that my space is not designed for humans? And
Only your pets can come in.
yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
my experience is going to be crap because I
Yeah.
didn't pay the experienced designer fee.
Yeah.
I mean, we have fragmented so much design that now other disciplines are bubbling up to pick up the pieces. Before, you just had the good and bad design.
Yeah.
You didn't have all these disciplines around it.
Yeah.
But the way it had evolved, it has allowed if you want this to work well, then you need to get an experienced designer.
Yeah.
If you want this to be human, then a human designer. But if you want it to look nice with that yellow and that green, then an interior designer. And those type of assumptions.
Yeah. I know that we're running very, very out of time, but I thought to sort of finish the conversation, if you were speaking to a room filled with facility managers and you could say to them, okay, this is the one thing I'd hope I could leave with you for your job on a day-to-day, what would it be?
Let's have a conversation without the assumptions of our day job and the constraints, and try to solve it, and also not come about in a patronizing way or because I learned so much in one of the projects I was doing in Brisbane with the well-known facility managers. So it's both ends. It's not designers or architects telling them what to do, and I wouldn't think necessarily the other way around. It's meeting in the middle, but having a conversation that allows to be absurd, to imagine things that cannot be simultaneously true at this moment, like architects and facility managers working together. But
what a strange thought.
How absurd is that? But imagine what we could do if that would be the case.
Yeah.
It would be. I think it would lead to better outcomes for the objectives of these workspaces if the two were part of the consultation process and the briefing process even.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
If people want to get in contact or follow you or get a copy of your books, how do they do so?
My website. I don't know if you can include a link there in your
Yeah,
podcast.
we will.
Or it's www.achevez.com.
ACHEVEZ.com.
That's correct.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed it.
Likewise. Thank you very much.